Hello, good people. Hope you're doing well. As you can see, I'm in my car. I brought my handy dandy notes so that I can, be prepared to talk about this today and upload the video. So, once again, I want to say thank you for consistently engaging with the channel. I appreciate when you subscribe to the channel, when you comment, you like, or you share any of the videos that I have previously posted or will continue to post on this channel. So my full disclaimer is in the bottom, is in the description on the bottom. I am not a medical doctor. Okay. Also, if there are any valuable links regarding this subject matter or any subject matter, I always try to post them also in the description. So today I want to speak to you about the importance of asking good, detailed questions when you're meeting with your medical doctor or your medical team. And this goes for anything, not just regarding the journey that I went on, but this goes for anything. And I hope that this can be beneficial, like I, shared the benefits of doing proper, and good research. So first and foremost, I want to say this. Don't be afraid to ask your doctors questions. Kind of remember that this is your meeting about your health, and you need to know what's going on. And if you're unsure about something, you don't understand something, this is your opportunity when you meet with the doctor to find out all of the information that you want to know regarding your health. So don't be afraid to ask a doctor. I know sometimes it can be intimidating. They have that white coat on, they're doctors. They spent all those years in school. They have like work experience, but you're a novice at this for whatever reason. You're coming into the doctor's office. So please go ahead and make sure that you do what you can to ask the proper questions. Again, I always say if they mention a medical term and you don't know what that medical term is, that you go ahead and ask them to spell it for you, and you can do your own research later. But I think it's important that you know that you don't have to be fearful asking your doctors any kind of questions. If I look, I'm in a parking lot filming this, so if I look around, that's because I'm looking around. Okay. So I always say this when you go to meet with your doctor, because again, I say it's a meeting. You should never go into a meeting or into a classroom where you don't have pen and paper or your phone ready to take good notes, because there's no point in your doctor and you having a good conversation if you're not going to remember every little thing that they, kind of express to you, want to share with you. So it's important that you be prepared and you have good notes, note taking materials with you. So I think that that's beneficial. It's been beneficial for me because when I've been in a doctor's office and they mention something I don't understand, I can research it later if they can't give me an in-depth, 'cause sometimes they don't have the time to give you in-depth reasoning or, response to your question. So please do that. And don't forget to go back and look at my video about the importance of doing research, because I believe when you do good research, you're able to ask your doctor or the medical team better questions, more direct questions, more specific questions regarding your health or what's going on, right? And I definitely feel like from my own research, from note taking, that I was able to ask more direct questions about my health care and I got better answers. So when you get invested, I believe the doctors get a little bit more invested too, because they understand you're doing your research and you're going to have questions for them. I also believe that it adds to, much better, healthcare too, than just getting a very surface answer, how are you doing? I'm fine type of situation, conversation, instead of saying, well, what are your symptoms that you're feeling? And you give your doctor in-depth feelings and then they come back with what they think it is. And then, having a dialogue versus just those one short answers. You already know if you're having a dialogue with somebody and you're trying to get some information, you don't want those one short answers. So I liken it, I like to give examples, I liken it to when you go to meet with your doctor and you prepare, it's like the time that you prepare when you have a job interview. I think when you ask better questions, more in-depth questions about the position, what's going on, I think you get a better answer and you get a better scope of what is expected of you, because then you'll get hired and you'll go, what is this? This is not what I thought. No, this is what it was on the job description. So think of it that way. You're here interviewing your doctor about what is going on with your healthcare, right? And I do know that many people have had horrible experiences with doctors. I get it, or a medical professional for whatever the reason. But don't let that deter you from asking questions and pursuing the healthcare you deserve. So if they're having not such a great day, I understand that we all have those moments, but I need these questions answered, or, direct me to the person that can answer them for me if this is not a good time for you. I always try to always remember that you got to put yourself first, because if you don't come in, they don't essentially have jobs, right? So the whole purpose of doctors is to provide healing for us mentally and physically. So, we're mentally, concerned about what's going on with us. And so we're asking you these questions. So, still kind of, if even if you're fearful, still kind of press forward and, ask those doctors those questions, because I believe that it shouldn't matter of your economic status. It shouldn't matter of your race, your gender, your ethnicity. You deserve good health care. And part of having good health care is asking questions, no matter what the person on the other end may or may not be feeling that day. So, depending on your health journey, you probably, don't even know where to begin to, start asking questions. Well, I think, you start with your symptoms. Most of us nowadays, we just go right over to the internet and we say, why am I feeling this? Right. And depending on what it might be, you make your appointment with your doctor. And to the best of your ability, when you meet with your doctor, you explain everything that is happening to your body at that time. Right. So I think it's taking the time to do your initial research, but it's also taking the time to, meet with your doctor to, figure out what could be the normal possibilities. Because we can see when we see different social media stories that typically a doctor may think it's A, but once again, if they go ahead and you ask specific questions or they do something different, they find out it's not even A, B, C, it's actually D. So having, the comfortability in asking questions is, very viable. So that is why I say it's important for you to take notes in your meeting. If they ask questions of yourself, even write those questions down. They may say, hey, what did you do in the last 2 weeks? What did you eat in the last 2 weeks? And you may not remember at that moment, but you might remember later. And remembering later could be one of the reasons that causes them to find out what's really going on with your body. We can see it sometimes if people have traveled to a various country and they come back not feeling well. And once they go through their steps, the doctors could say A, B, C, and D, right? So it's important to, don't be offended when they ask you questions as well. Take the time to really think and, help them help you. So another avenue to determining I have it right here. Another avenue to determining what type of questions to ask your doctor is really talking to a friend, talking to someone that you know that maybe have gone through the same type of health journey that you're on, or maybe somebody has more experience, unfortunately, going to, see doctors and have procedures than you do, and they may um, offer some kind of help to you. Again, I always say what Mother Span said, chew on the meat and, chew on the meat and spit out the fat. So they may offer you some questions that you didn't think about, and then some stuff may not even be related to you. So that's a very good avenue to have, using your community, using the people around you to determine what you might need. So for me, before I got ready to have the hysteroscopy procedure, I did reach out to a friend to kind of say, hey, what type of questions, and I have them here, do you think that I should ask my doctor, right? And so hopefully you can see all of this. They have a bunch of questions. I printed it out on this sheet. And I was very grateful for me taking the step and asking that question, because there were a couple of questions on here that I wouldn't have thought to ask, right? What will you be looking for during this procedure? I knew why the doctor wanted to do this, but what are they specifically looking for? Will I be under local or general anesthesia? Such a good question, right? What are the risks and the complications? What do I need to stop eating or drinking beforehand? Well, I did have the pre-op, so that did help me with that part. But I just think that these are questions to ask during the procedure. Will I experience any pain? And, how will you manage my comfort level? And I thought that these were very good questions. She even put questions over here, post the procedure. How long will recovery take? What are the side effects should I be expecting? So I thought this was very, good to have a friend give me these type of questions, because they were extremely, extremely helpful to me. So I'm going to share with you some of the questions that I did ask my doctor post, and then share with some of them I asked pre the procedure, and then post the procedure. So what I did was I just typed this up on my computer, and I put the date I was having the meeting, the name of the doctor, the time, and what type of meeting. This was a video call. If it was going to be in person, I put in person. If it was a phone call, I put a phone call. Those are just little notes that I like to have, just for me. So these are my questions. It has a lot of stuff on here, so I'm not going to show it. Um, but one of the things that I did in the pre-meeting, as we discussed the upcoming procedure, was I asked her, I did the subject heading is recap. So like, how did we get to this point of this decision making? And then she did, go ahead and explain that to me. So what do I need to do before this procedure? And I got pretty much all of that procedure information at the post-op. But I still like to go over with the doctor so that I can see. And then, I did ask her about the general anesthesia or the local. I asked her about how long this would take. She said 30 to 40 minutes. I asked what would she be looking for. And during this procedure, she told me she'd be looking for abnormal cells. And making sure, and then she will also, looking for the cause of the bleeding. And also she would be taking some samples to do another biopsy. So I had like almost 4 pages of questions. Did I get through all of them? No. But one thing too, when we did the recap, she answered a lot of the questions that I had already written out. So I thought that was, pretty helpful. I asked her if my lymphatic system will be affected, because I read somewhere that you should check that nothing's poked or torn during that time. So I did ask that. That I, and I have okay, sorry if I'm all over the place. The first section was the recap. The second section was before the procedure. I had questions, and then the last one was during the procedure. And I asked her about how would I be, will my pain be managed? Yes, because there would be somebody in the room during, monitoring me while I'm under anesthesia. One of the things I did ask was that I asked who would be in the room, and one of the reasons why, and what will happen while I'm in the room. So although she's taking the hysteroscopy and placing it up my uterus, cervical vagina, and going up to my uterus. So she will be doing that, and she'll have a monitor there where she can see things. So I like to know who's going to be in the room, because I prayed over everything, guys. I prayed for the doctor. We normally pray for that, right? But I pray for all the medical equipment would work accordingly, because, it is technology, and we all know how technology can stop working whenever it feels like. I prayed for the nurses. I prayed for all of the equipment that was going to be used, whether it was just going to be something electronically or like a scope, or, they had to pick up something with their hands. I prayed for everything, guys, everything. Prayed for the person cleaning the room, everything, right? I prayed that the atmosphere would be right for this kind of procedure. So, these are just some of the questions that I did ask, and the last section was post procedure. So I thought that it was very good for me to be prepared and have these type of questions. So these were pretty much the questions that I asked pre the procedure. And then some of the questions that I asked after, and I'll go in more detail when we start talking about the next video, when I talk about our next steps, the doctor and I. So what I did for so when I met with my doctor after the procedure, I looked at the operative report. And remember, I had a hysteroscopy, a pyelomectomy, a myomectomy, and I had the DNC, which is the dilation and curation. And I had one more other thing too. But these were the main ones. So what I did was I broke this up into subject headings. So the other one was the procedure itself, the polyp, we talked about fibroids as well. We talked about next step, but I kind of broke it up that way. One of the things that I did remember, if you remember what I shared with you, was that during the procedure, she found a polyp, and it said it was one polyp, because I wanted to confirm that. She said it was one polyp, and it was 75% in my cavity. So she definitely was able to, remove that. And she kind of went over everything that she did during the procedure. And if there was something I didn't understand, I stopped her to say, well, what does that mean? So I don't know if I told you this. I even asked her if I could have pictures. She gave me pictures, but girl, when I tell you I don't know, or guy, I don't know what those pictures mean, but I just have pictures of the camera going down the little cavity. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever this is. And then I asked her to explain what non-typical hyperplasia mean plainly and simply. And she did that. And that was very, helpful to me. So having the questions prepared, although there was a good number that I did not ask her, but I think having these prepared, like I said, I think we had a better, conversation than we would have if I didn't have, um, this procedure. So, I even asked her about before I had the procedure about something else I had read, ablation, and she said that that's not something that they do anymore or often, and that was stated in the book. And the book I read, and you saw those when I talked about research, was from 20 years ago. So maybe that's not something they do that often, or maybe that's not something they train the new doctors. I don't know, but I said okay. But at least I asked because I want her to know I'm doing my research, and I'm also looking at alternative stuff to do in addition to what she had recommended, right? So I want to say this. Yes, your doctors are doctors and they are very knowledgeable, but guess what? They don't know everything because remember, they're practicing medicine. So that's why I say together with, being a part of the team really makes a difference. And um, being prepared with your questions and asking the right question and not just letting them lead you where they want you to go. It's important that you say, hold up, I need to feel comfortable with this. What does this mean? What does that mean? So I think it's the goal of everyone that you walk away, well, definitely your goal to walk away, with better knowledge and, full of health and better equipped to know how you want to manage and take the next step. So I am mindful about advocating for myself. And I think you should be as well. If you're not happy with, maybe they don't have enough time to ask your questions, that is a time to, like, I always say, to have good 3 questions ready. Yeah, have a good 3 questions ready so that you can be prepared if they're one of those doctors that don't like to talk much. But you have to be a little forceful if you need to be and say, hey, I have questions. This is a serious matter. And for me, it may not be a serious matter for them because you might have been their 50th patient today. I don't know, but it's a serious matter to you. So you need to take it seriously and you need to let them know you're taking it seriously. And how do you do that? Number one, as I said in the previous video, doing great research. And more importantly, asking the great direct questions that should lead to the healing that your body and you deserve. So I hope this is very helpful to you, about asking questions, or when I digress from the journey and talk about research and different things of that nature. I'm just trying to share with you all the things that made me more comfortable, all the things that I found to be helpful. And sometimes I think that we just don't do, or we don't think that we have the authority to do. This is your body, and you have the authority to ask anyone questions that is coming to touch your body, examine your body, or give you some kind of a diagnose about your body. So I hope this encourages you to ask questions. I hope this encourages you to do research that you can ask specific questions and not just the general questions, but get down deep in there. Like, what does this mean? Like when I asked, will this affect my lymphatic system? And she said, no. I know that threw her for a loop, but I did read that somewhere in my research. Make sure you're doing a procedure. They will not be coming near your lymphatic system. So that is very key. So I will talk to you later. In the next video, I will be discussing the next steps that the doctor suggested, and I kind of made a decision about. So you'll know where I'm in the next step of this 2025 uterine health journey that I was on. Until then, take care. Have a wonderful day. And remember, you are important. Remember that you're the boss of your medical health and you have the right to ask questions. So be courageous and know that you are loved. Take care.